So I think this is a good case, and I think it demonstrates actually, a case where we forgot to do something, okay? So let's get into it and let's see what happened, okay? So all of these lines are the lines that, App Engine spits out and says that, we have a bug. So it can be a bit overwhelming, okay? So it's all of these lines here up until here. But what I recommend doing is always start from the very bottom, okay? So start from the bottom and see we have a type error. So this gives kind of a clue that we're putting a wrong type somewhere, okay? So it's expecting one type, but it found another. So here it says, coercing to Unicode, need string or buffer, list found. So it's giving us a clue that it's expecting a string, but we put in a list, okay? So immediately we can start thinking, okay, where are we putting lists somewhere? Well, I'm not going to give you the clue right now, but you probably are already thinking in the right direction, because even if you don't know with this line what you're doing, let's go up and see if the following lines can give us more clues, okay? So here we see, the path to the library of code which is throwing this error, and we can see it's the search API that's throwing this error, okay? So this is another hint. We see that we have a list passing into the search API when it's expecting a string. So now you can think, okay, the only place where we are passing or we're using a string is with the directions and the ingredients. So this should give you a clue, but if it doesn't, then we can still go up and we see that this is the line that's throwing this error, okay? Search.text field ingredients. So this is a text field, but we're passing in ingredients, which is apparently a list of some sorts, okay? So let's see what's happening here. Here we saw, this is the line that's breaking everything, okay? Ingredients is a text field, but we're passing in a list, okay? And if we go up, and this logic is the cause of this error, okay? Because when we created this function, we created this function with the user posting a recipe in mind, okay? So we saw, okay, they're passing in a list, they're passing in a string of ingredients and a string of directions, and it was formatted as a string. And what we did is we created a more structured version of that, okay? So, and we saved the structured version in the data store, but then we saved the original version in the search API, because we don't need this information to be structured in the search API, because the search API doesn't really care about the structure. It just needs a flat structure to search through this entire document, okay? So we don't need this here structured, okay? But now what have we done? Well, we have introduced a parser logic here. So if we're parsing it, then we're saying that we're creating the JSON ingredients correctly, but then we're trying to pass in the ingredients which is already structured, okay? So we're saying JSON ingredients is the ingredients because the ingredients is already structured, but then we're passing in ingredients here which is structured, and we don't want this structured, we want this as a string, okay? So we need to figure out a way of how to unstructure this and pass the unstructured version, okay? Okay, so what we can do is we can override ingredients and say it's equal to, and since it's a list, we need to flatten the list and turn it into a string. So I'm going to show you a very handy way of doing this, okay, in Python. So we already saw the way we can join lists into strings by using the join function. So we need to type in a string by which we want to join. So I'm going to open up a string and hit comma space and then dot join, okay? And here I will open up a list and say, I will create a new string and say %s space %s space %s. So we are going to be substituting 3 items, and I guess you already know what items those are. So this is going to be X amount. It's also going to be X unit. And finally, it's going to be also X ingredients. Okay. And now outside of the parentheses, I'm going to say for x in ingredients. Okay. Okay, what's going on here? This may be a little bit confusing, but don't worry, this is actually very simple. Okay, so what we're doing, ingredients, when we are in the parsed case, so when we are in the else case, ingredients is a list, right? Okay, so what we're doing is in one line, we are looping over this list. So for x in ingredients, we're looping through this list and we are generating another list, okay? And we're generating, since we are opening up square brackets here and putting the for loop inside of these square brackets, we're generating a list for all of these items that we're looping through, okay? And the whole purpose of this is to create a list of strings so that we can actually extract the amount, the unit and the ingredient into a single string, okay? And then we will have various strings in a list according to the amount of lines that we have gotten out of the parser in the ingredients section, okay? So let's go back here and in this section. This will essentially read exactly the same, right? So each line will be now a string instead of being a JSON with their 3 components, okay? So that's what we're doing here. And then since we have a string of lists, we can just do the comma join, and this will actually join all of the lists into an entire string, okay? Okay, so that's what that's doing. And let's say directions, let's do the exact same thing. Is equal to comma space dot join and say directions. And this one's easier because directions is already a list and there's no, JSONs inside of this list. It's just a list of strings, okay? Okay, so that's that. Let's see if this works now. So I'm going to go here and refresh, and fingers crossed everything will work. Okay, seems to have worked. There's no errors here in my log. So let's go now to the data store, to the Google App Engine admin console, and let's look at our data store. So here we have a couple of recipes already that we're parsing in our data store, so this is good. And we have a couple already because the process broke after saving it to the data store. It broke while we were saving to the search index, okay? So let's go to the search index and see if they're here, recipes. And here we see our original recipe and then 2 of our parsed recipes. So, okay, so this is looking amazing. We see it's parsed equal to 1, so this is fantastic. We're getting all of the information that we want. So cook time, prep time, it's parsed, the photo URL, title, ingredients, and here we see the effect of doing all of that, transformation in lists. We're flattening the structure and just separating by commas, and the directions as well. So this is all looking awesome. No user ID. Okay, good. So, let's search for this recipe. Okay, let's search for bourbon in our application. So localhost 8080. Let's search for bourbon. And wow, we have our recipes here. Amazing. Okay, so this is looking really, really good. And if we actually go ahead and click it, well, we see that our image is huge because I didn't start off my Google App Engine application with the, with the method that we can actually transform images. So if you want, I can do that now. So I'm going to quit out of my application. And instead of running the gcloud preview app run, I'm going to simply cd to my home directory. And again, hit Python. So I'm going to start up the DevOps server. So Python, and I can say Google Cloud SDK, platform, Google App Engine, DevOps server. Okay, and now I need to provide the directory to my application. So this will be projects, App Engine, Yum Search 2 default. Okay. So now my application is running. I will hit refresh. And we see that our image is resizing correctly. Obviously in production, this will already work correctly. We don't have to do anything. In production, this will work just fine. Okay. So really, really good. Everything seems to be working.